I basically posted in a Facebook group that I ran, like, hey guys, like I'm closing my doors and I am jumping into the online education world. I am going to teach photographers how to run their businesses. I'm looking for essentially a cohort of group coaching clients to start out with that I can just teach everything that I did in my business. This is kind of the outline. I mean, I hadn't built any of the content, anything. Like, it was my first time really breaking everything down. And I ended up having 5 clients sign on with me and made about $20,000 from that first launch. And I funneled them to a little Facebook group. And so I kind of did like a little miniature launch, but it was literally, I think I was like doing this in the middle of like having my baby. Like, I started talking to them about it and then like had my baby and then like closed the clients within like a couple days after that. Like, it was not,
Oh my
no
gosh.
pressure. Like, it was just
Yeah.
like, I'm
This is an
posting this and
idea.
this
Let's
is
do this. Yeah. And you had
yeah.
already laid the groundwork. I think a lot of people forget that part when it comes to a launch. Like, you can't come out of nowhere generally and do that successfully from the same perspective. We
Mhm.
try, and businesses come all the time. They're like, I want to do this thing, but like that effectiveness and that outcome doesn't happen unless you've laid groundwork for the last 6 years with your name and with your
Yeah.
community efforts and your relationships and things.
Oh yeah, it was, if I could offer any advice to anybody who's wanting to step into maybe a coaching, position or an education position or anything, like if you're in I mean, start a community somewhere, and locally start a local community, because just by showing up and creating a home for people, people will naturally see you as a leader in your community, which then those people, have the know, like, and trust factor to move on and work with you in some capacity. And so it's a great start. And it was probably the easiest launch I have ever done
Yeah,
since.
for
You know
real.
what I
I
mean?
know. Well, it only gets harder. It like
I
you
know.
realize how easy it is, and you're like, oh, I could do that again. Then you add something to it, and you add something to your plate, and then it becomes this massive ordeal. But
Mhm.
I value that you experienced it that way, that then continue to do it. And so I'll be curious what other launch strategies you have as we go through your sharing
Yeah.
your story.
Well, that's actually it definitely kind of, goes into just the element of launching. Like, I've just been launching for a long time. And anyway, well, kind of even preceding that, that last year that I had run my photography business, I had launched a senior program because I had stopped weddings about a year before that. Or maybe I shot my last weddings right before my last year, because I was like, my family is just changing. Like, things are changing. Like, I thank God, he pivots our businesses and he makes these changes during these different seasons. But I had created a program for high school seniors, and I had booked $43,000 worth of high school seniors in 15 days in my photography business for a program. And that was the first time that I had dove into this launch strategy. I had read the book Launch by Jeff Walker, and it is still one of my go-to books sometimes when I just need to like simplify my mind and kind of think about the launch process. And I applied that to my local business, and had this massive success. And so I had done that, and then kind of that mini launch when I was closing my business. And then I spent the next, like the next like 6 months just building out my course content, because I was teaching it live to my students. We would actually meet like once a week. We'd go to my little studio space and meet and just kind of hang out and drink wine and talk about photography and go through lessons. And then I took
Love
all of
it.
that content and recorded it for an online course, and did my first official online launch in the month of May 2019. And that went well. And then I kept launching and launching. I actually spent, I think, most of 2019, or the rest of 2019, and the first part of 2020, just launching, like just a lot of launch practice. I created some smaller programs. I primarily did everything in a Facebook group. That's kind of been the theme, like, of where I've done my launching, and learned so much, so I've kind of built launch structures and tested so much and just been through it so many times with little launches and big launches. And was in the photography, niche for this, selling my signature program as my main product. But in the summer of 2020, when the world started to go dive into the chaos, into the abyss,
Totally. It was not new
um,
to you though. You were used to chaos. You've been operating in it since you were little.
I know. It is the gosh darn theme of my life sometimes.